Well, good morning and welcome, everybody. I want to thank everyone for being here this morning. I think this is a very important issue that we're looking at, and hopefully we can help. First of all, I want to welcome Deb DeVere from the Coalition, the Rhode Island Coalition for Domestic Violence, and I want to thank them for what they do every day, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. I don't think many people realize what their organization does and how they've saved countless lives and protected thousands upon thousands of citizens, as well as helping their family members, because family members often become victims. They are truly the unsung heroes, and they ask for no recognition. They ask for no accolades. They just continue to work case after case after case, helping victim after victim. As many of us go about our daily business, some of us never think about domestic violence and the victims that it creates and the people that are affected. Many don't think about the victims, who could be our neighbors, our friends, and in some cases our family members. They may be victims of domestic violence. Perhaps we're just too busy, or perhaps we just turn our heads and look the other way, saying maybe it'll stop, maybe it'll go away, but in reality it does not. The abuse continues and may accelerate into the death of a victim. The Rhode Island Coalition is that buffer that protects any and all victims. We as society need to be vigilant and get involved if we know someone who is a victim and is not being helped. We can no longer look the other way. Domestic violence has no cultural or economic barriers that can happen to anyone. Imagine what would happen if Deb and her staff and her volunteers were not around. What would happen to those victims? Imagine the victims, imagine the deaths. This donation today on behalf of my administration, the Johnston Town Council, Rep. Falala, who is also coming, as well as the citizens of Johnston, is a small thank you, Deb, for what you do. We appreciate that. And we thank you for your commitment to help make victims aware of this epidemic and those who need help. And I'm hoping that the media sends out the message that the Rhode Island Coalition Against Domestic Violence is there for them. What we've done, ladies and gentlemen, is, as you know, as we all do, is we all get updated cell phones. And our employees have phones, and we have a strict policy on phones, we know that. But the updates turned in, the owners are turned into us, and they were sitting in a box. And I think they're going to go to good use. Deb's going to explain exactly what happens to them and how some of them are refurbished, and victims who need help can call 911. I remember when I was a senator how hard Deb was up there with her again. She worked very, very hard, and sometimes people didn't want to recognize domestic violence. A lot of the senators and reps would say, well, is it really happening? But it is happening, and it happens as we speak here today. So this is just a small token of our appreciation from the Johnston Town Council, my administration, and the citizens of the town. We want to thank you for what you've done. You really have helped the women, and in some cases men, okay, as well as the victims. And as I said before, sometimes the family members are also victims, the children are victims. But her organization does a tremendous, tremendous job, so I want to thank you for it. And I also want to thank our police chief, Richard Tambrini, who's here today, with our deputy chief and our captains and our other officers, because they pay particular attention to domestic violence, and they work very hard to make sure that the citizens of this town are protected. If in fact there was a domestic violence case, we have I say it time and time again, I'm extremely, extremely proud of the men and women of the Johnston Police Department. They do a tremendous job, and they have true concerns about all of the citizens in this town. So Chief and Deputy Chief, I want to thank you also for being here today. You guys do a great job. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Deb DeVere, who is the Executive Director of the Rhode Island Coalition of Domestic Violence.
Thanks very much, Mayor. I want to not only thank the Mayor, but everyone who has contributed cell phones, and the citizens, the town council, the chief, because this really demonstrates that it's a true collaborative partnership to try to keep the entire community safe. You know, it wasn't so long ago where the Coalition Against Domestic Violence was the lone voice speaking out about this problem. But today, in the streets of Johnston and in the halls of the State House, no matter where I go, we have champions and voices and leadership that are saying the things that need to be said, asking people to recognize the prevalence of domestic violence, and asking to find out what they can do to help. This is an example of how wonderful it is to see when the community comes together. So let me explain a little bit about what we're going to do with this donation of the phones. Many times victims are in such severe danger that they are even afraid to leave their house. They're afraid that their abuser is stalking them, is going to track them down, and they're afraid to go to work or do their daily routines. Having a cell phone, which is programmed to automatically dial 911 with just the push of a dial, can be a lifeline. It can give that person the peace of mind that they can go do their daily errands and know that the police will only be one push away. And so there's a company that refurbishes the cell phones. The ones that can be recycled and reprogrammed and used again are then recycled back to the community for local domestic violence batterings shelters, and then we distribute them to the victims who need them. Other phones that may not be recyclable are sold for parts, and donation, a financial contribution is made back to the coalition and to our member agencies. And so it's a real win-win for everyone. We get the financial support, and victims get the lifeline. They get that emergency cell phone to use for when they need it most. So thank you so much to everyone who has contributed a phone and to anyone who raises awareness about domestic violence. One of the most important messages that I want to leave you with is that domestic violence is unfortunately way more prevalent than we realize. There were over 10,000 victims of domestic violence served last year in Rhode Island. Every day, law enforcement advocates, shelter, and the 24-hour helpline receive calls from people who are looking for help. You can help spread the word. Let people know that there is help available. No one deserves to be abused, and that's what we're there for. So thank you very much again for the phones. We will put them to good use and make sure that we keep as many victims safe as possible. Thank you.
Just a couple of comments I want to make also. First of all, I want to thank our council, stay with me if you don't mind now. I want to thank our town council under the direction of Vice President Manzi, who's here today, Councilman Pitticelli, Councilman David Santilli, and Councilwoman Dean Folko. I want to thank them. And Chief, I also want to thank the command staff, which I almost forgot, and I apologize because you guys do a great job for us. But today I'm also challenging, I'm hoping the media picks this up, I'm challenging all of the other mayors, managers, and town administrators to get their phones. And don't leave them in a box, in some hallway, or in some office, or some closet. Make this donation. It doesn't cost much, and it doesn't hurt. If you don't donate your phones and this is in a box, somebody may be hurt without your donation to your community. So I'm challenging the other mayors, managers, and town administrators, and tomorrow I'll be together with about 12 of them. I won't tell you where, but I'll be together with about 12 of them, and I'm going to tell them to make sure that they look in their closets for their phones that have been turned in for their upgrades. And I also challenge the public out there, those of you who get phones and maybe get an update, and you get the old phone and throw it in a drawer, okay? Call, you can call the town hall, you can call the Rhode Island Coalition Against Domestic Violence, and they'll take that phone. Every phone counts. Every phone helps. So I'm hoping that with the media here today, you get that message out that we're looking for other phones. It's very, very important. And the phones you donate, especially to the citizens out there, you may save a life and not realize it. So once again, I do thank you for being here today, Deb. And we'd be glad to answer any questions if anyone has any questions. No questions? Oh, you made it easy. Okay. Approximately there are, let me put my glasses on. There are 45 complete phones with charges, and there are 33 phones without charges. So we're making a hefty donation today, and we appreciate, as I said, we appreciate what Deb and her organization does. They work very, very hard. And as I said before, they don't ask for any accolades. They're the silent heroes. They protect a lot of women in the state. And I don't think the public really realizes what they do, so hopefully this will make the public aware. And as I said earlier, being here at the Senior Center, there's no cultural barriers, there's no economic barriers, and there's no age barriers. Domestic violence can happen at any age. So once again, I want to thank you for coming, and if you have any questions, you can ask Deb and all the council members. And once again, to my council, by the way, when I brought it up to the council what I wanted to do, they said, just do it. You don't have to, just do it. They were 150% on board, and I really appreciate that they were on board. Of course, I wouldn't doubt they would be on board, but they're just good. They just want to help and obviously make sure that their constituents obviously are safe, because it can happen in any city or town. It doesn't have to be just the urban areas. It could be the suburban areas. So once again, thank you, Deb.
Some of them are in really good shape. Some of them are in really
Oh, there you go.